This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. Hey everybody, today's guest is Frank Portman, better known as Dr. Frank, guitarist and lead vocalist for the Berkeley, California punk rock band, the Mr. T Experience. Together we break down the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the fan favorite single, Ba 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 Ba, taken from their 1996 album, Love Is Dead. The Mr. T Experience were a very early influence for this once young punk rocker. Frank's lyrics were filled with sarcasm, wit, absurdity, and fun, but mixed with the melodies and songs. As a listener, I was always left wondering, is he being serious here? Is this tongue-in-cheek? Or is he just being ridiculous for ridiculous sake? And as Frank explains, the answer's all the above. Ba 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 is what every songwriter strives for. A song that immediately connects with an audience, whether you speak the same language or not. And Frank gives us an impromptu a cappella version of the Partridge Family hit, I Think I Love You. So for all this, and a late in the episode discussion about modulation, stick around.
Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
Frank!
Hey there.
How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem. I understand you're a Pittsburgh native now.
Not native.
Not native, but a Pittsburgher.
I've gone native in some ways. I don't say yins yet, but I'm working towards that.
Yeah, that would take me a minute to get to. Are you into Primanti sandwiches, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you've gotten into some Pittsburgh stuff.
Yeah, it's a fine place to live.
Good deal. Well, Mr. T Experience is definitely in my top 10 influences.
Well, that's kind of you to say.
No, you guys, I mean, what I loved, I was a little young for the Ramones. I got into the Ramones later. My Ramones were you guys and like Screeching Weasel. And what I loved about bands like yours, and I'll even include some lesser known bands, Sewer Trout, if you remember those guys.
I sure do.
I loved the silliness of it, but the silliness was met with a seriousness. You had songs like I Love You, but You're Standing on My Foot, and you would sing it with such conviction that this 16-year-old kid believed it, if that makes sense.
That absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
In order to make convincing music, you got to inhabit the material, even if you don't personally mean it in that way. You've got to mean it enough to get the song across. And all the music I love the best involves some element of that.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a sort of a game, at least for me, of seeing how far-fetched you could make the scenario and still pull the listener in. And I remember probably the best example of that in my little world was when I introduced a song called Lawnmower of Love to our producer, recording engineer, Kevin Army, and I knew the look of skepticism on his face. I knew what he was thinking. There's no way this will be a good song. And then by the end of the song, he says, okay, we got to record this.
You're just bored enough. You're just out of your gourd enough. You're just standing in front of the lawnmower of love.
It's a series of personal challenges that you set yourself. So yes, I Love You, But You're Standing on My Foot is definitely one of those where you hear the title, you think it's funny, but then if it works out, there's a kernel of reality, a kernel of truth in there. And that's what the thing you're playing with. So it's all lots of fun and a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, but as a young listener, I didn't really realize that. Again, it wasn't until later that you're reading between the lines of the lyrics, and I'm going, oh, I see why that line I understand why that line moved me. He's saying this, but I was feeling this. And that's the part about lyrics that are so great. Everyone can take something away from it. You guys, I think one of the first songs I heard from you, and I want to say it was on like a early Maximum Rock and Roll comp. Maybe a 7-inch, was Danny Partridge.
They'll be safely behind bars. Danny Partridge busted. Happened just the other day. Danny Partridge busted. Now they're gonna lock him away. And he got busted.
I doubt it was on a Maximum Rock and Roll comp.
Okay,
but,
okay.
Yeah, I know those guys. I knew those guys. That song was as far from their universe of approved of songs that you could possibly get. But maybe if it was Ronald Reagan got busted, that would have been on a Maximum Rock and Roll compilation. But yeah, okay, so that was right from the beginning. That was our very first recording venture.
Well, yeah, and for those listeners unfamiliar, Danny Partridge, of course, was played by Danny Bonaducci, the actor, which had gotten busted for drugs in the late 80s or around that time period.
Contemporary with the song. It was a reaction. It was maybe one of the only topical songs I ever attempted.
Right, but here I am listening to a band that's singing about a guy, and again, Partridge Family was in syndication when I was growing up. I knew about it, but to me, it was just hilarious that a band could do this. So cool. You guys, of course, are from the Bay Area, formed in 85. Your first record came out in 1986, and eventually you got signed to Lookout Records. And the first record I remember getting from you guys was Making Things with Light.
Yeah, that was the first Lookout Records LP.
Right. And then that was followed by Milk Lemonade, which has I Love You, But You're Standing on My Foot, and a bunch of other amazing songs. But the album Love Is Dead came out in 1996, and that's the album that features Ba 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 Ba. And we're going to talk about that one today. Take us back. Do you remember writing the song?
Yeah, sure. Well, I remember that period, the way that, I don't know about you, but the way that songs usually happen for me is that they're bouncing around in your head for a lengthy period while you're doing things like waiting for the bus or doing the dishes or something. And they kind of they're just percolating. There's a dividing line in that band, the Mr. T Experience, and Love Is Dead album is kind of on the further side of it. We had series of disintegrations of the band in various forms till then, and then a very unlikely reassemblement happened around that time. And a lot of things had changed since before. And I wrote a whole bunch of those songs while I didn't know that they were going to be played by a rock and roll band, a punk rock band. I thought of them more like folk songs, and that's how they were in my head. And that's how I didn't know if anyone was going to hear them but me, but I would, strum them in my bedroom, and I'd play them in my head. And I always imagined them as very simple folk songs. And that was one of the earliest of those that was percolating. And I had it in my little notebook. I had the notebook that I had written Love Is Dead on the cover of, not thinking that it was going to be the name of an album, but just as a general theme. It was a composition theme book. I think I have it still, and I've posted pictures of it before. It's quite pathetic and cute.
Yeah.
It's funny you mention the Partridge Family, because I was thinking about it. And so this song, Ba 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 Ba, that initial figure, there's always a difference of the way it sounds in your head when you imagine how it will be arranged and executed, and what you're actually capable of doing when it actually becomes real. And that, for me, that chasm has always been enormous. It never meets the original idea, but you can always get an idea of what that original idea was if you can imagine a Partridge Family arrangement. And this song particularly, that's how it was in my head. And I'm talking about, we had three guys, only one of whom could sing, and it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And
was it Joel?
Yeah. And so we didn't have a chorus of professional studio singers from LA, as had the band that was played as the Partridge Family on TV would have done it. But if you can imagine how that would have sounded, that's how I imagined that song would sound. Not necessarily even with taking such a prominent role as the title of the song, but
yeah,
that's how I just figured it out. In fact, that was, I don't know if I'm giving you too much in one go here.
No, not at all. I love this, because I want to expound on it in a second. Please continue.
Okay. Well, I'll just say that the original title of it was the little things, or it's the little things, which is the part I think of this chorus. It's the little things that get you down.
Right.
And when we started playing it, my band, who are a little bit more attuned to the popular culture of the real world, I was still living in the 60s and 70s. They were living in the 90s. And they said, there's already a song that's on the radio called that by some grunge band. And that didn't bother me at all. There's thousands of songs called, I Believe in You, for instance. I've got an I Believe in You. They're just,
I love you.
Yeah. So that was the origin of changing the title. And the way that happened was, once I just decided on the stage, I said, this one's called Ba 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 Ba. And then I immediately went ba 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 ba, and it got a laugh. So I'm a sucker for a good laugh, and that's how I started introducing it, and that's how it became the name of the song and how it all turned out.
I love that. I had a guest on recently that said the same thing, and I hadn't heard that from anybody. Exactly, which is if it elicits a laugh, sometimes that's all we need as a creator and artist to be like, wow.
Well, it's any audience is on at least on the level of understanding content as just completely distant and gone, and almost might not even be there. They feel the beat, they feel the energy, they think the drummer's cute, or all of these things that are part of the rock and roll experience. But as far as any of the finer points I think having a good composition ultimately does make it fare better than having a poor composition. That's true, but it's all around the edges and subliminal. And if you can get any direct response to anything you do, and it's not really stupid, then I feel like it's a big achievement. And so you cherish those little sparks and try to hone them into flames.
Yeah. We release an episode every Monday here for the last 4 years with songwriters. And never once has anybody said something else you brought up, which is you have this idea in your head as a songwriter, and it never fully comes to fruition. Yeah, the song gets recorded, it's 3/4 there, it's 80% there. I've never heard anybody touch on that because, man, I have these grandiose songs in my head sometimes, and I'll be like, ooh, I'm hearing the falsetto ooh part come in here, and I'll go to do it, and I'm like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, well, and you're limited by lots of things, not just the fact that that in the land of pure imagination, there's an inevitable fall from grace when it is made flesh, so to speak, and that's just a given in all human endeavor.
Sure,
but then there's also there's what kind of studio you can afford, what kind of equipment you have, what kind of the cooperation of your band's abilities and your own abilities, how certain situations, what your label there are so many barriers to getting the ideal version, to making it real, and many times those grandiose ideas are not very good. As you say, it's like you actually hear them on tape and then you say, oh, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But quite often they are great, and what you do is you say, I've learned from that didn't work, I'm going to try to be more destructive of the usual pattern next time to see if I can make just a little bit of it come out. And then the lesson that I only really came to terms with fairly recently, after many years of seeing this played out, is that one thing that happens when you just take the bare bones of a song that's good enough to stand on its own, and you just do it as unadorned as possible for whatever reason, because you can't afford to do it better, or because you don't have the talent to do it better, that means you can actually recreate the exact thing on the stage. And that makes a big difference in ultimately how you can pull an audience into to connecting the experience of the stage with the experience of the record. And that was more valuable than I realized at the time, I would say.
That's awesome. Well, you had mentioned Kevin Army a moment ago. And Kevin, to me, he was kind of like the house engineer, producer at Lookout Records. I mean, his name was on everything for a while there.
For a little while, in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. He had produced records for Operation Ivy, Jawbreaker, Sweet Baby, who I absolutely adored. Love that band. He engineered Green Day, Insomniac, and a whole list of other things. But he produced this record, correct?
Yeah, he produced all the records, the one early exception and then one late exception, the at this point final one that we did.
Okay, and that would have been King Dork, approximately, the album.
Right. We did that ourselves because that was a glorified self-released vanity project that we managed to spin it so it looked more real than it really was.
We all have those in our record collection, Frank. I'm guilty of it as well. Well, the track is 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Ba 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 ba. I'm assuming this was recorded to tape, no Pro Tools. This was 95.
That's right.
Okay. And it doesn't sound like it, but was it recorded to a click track?
Probably not.
Okay. I say doesn't sound like it. It kind of pushes and pulls. It feels great. Yeah. It feels great. Right off the top, I'm calling this the chorus. You mentioned Little Things a moment ago. I consider that a pre-chorus. It could be argued that's the chorus, but I think this is the chorus right off the top.
Yeah, I agree. I said that I think of it that way.
Yeah.
Because when it was originally conceived, that was it. And the intro part was just, if you think of I Think I Love You by the Partridge Family, the beginning of it, I don't know how familiar you are. Ba, 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 ba. And then the chorus is, I think I love you. So what am I so that's how I was basically just doing a Partridge Family knockoff.
You're making me laugh, Frank, because right now my producer Chris is going to put in less than Jake's version of I Think I Love You.
There you go.
I think I love you, so what am I so afraid of? Afraid that I'm not sure of. A love there is no cure for. I think I love you.
We recorded that for the Scream 2 soundtrack.
Nice.
Yeah. And
wow.
I during that time I got to meet David Cassidy at one of his one of his residencies out in Vegas. It was set up by somebody at Capitol Records when we were doing promotion for the Scream thing. And David was very cool and accommodating.
Yeah, I met him once. He's a nice guy.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, right off the top here.
Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba.
Ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, and ba 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 ba. The first two times are just stereo guitars and vocal only, and man, the first time it goes through with the guitar configuration, there's like a quarter note hiccup or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, explain it to me. I'm not surprised to find there's a hiccup, but
if you sing it, if you just start it off 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and you're counting the bars, there's a hiccup after the first ba 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 figure of vocals. I don't know how to explain it, but it goes off for just a second there.
Huh. I gotta go back and check that out.
And Frank, I kept listening to it over and over and over, and I went and found different versions, and I'd go to YouTube, I'd go to Spotify, and it was the same thing. So I think it's cool. I think it sounds it's
idiosyncratic sense of rhythm. I won't try to argue against that.
Okay, very cool.
Just me and Sid Barrett.
The back half of this chorus, drums and bass are in along with the vocal. There's no backing vocals in. And then we hit verse 1. And, you talked about it being folky. Like this could have just been like a Dr. Frank solo composition over here or something. But I never really thought of that until you said it. Now I'm thinking of this first verse, how it breaks down. Kind of has that folky feel.
My life till now has been filled with doubt. Here I am, 'cause there's no other place I can go. But I can see you're a lot like me. So maybe somewhere people like us can go. But we won't get kicked out, 'cause we've got what to talk about. After years of research, I think I figured it out.
My life till now has been filled with doubt. Here I am, 'cause there's no other place I can go. But I can see you're a lot like me. So maybe somewhere people like us can go. Where we won't get kicked out, 'cause we've got a lot to talk about. After years of research, I think I've figured it out.
Well, as it goes on to say, It's the little things that get you down. It's the bigger things you can't get around, and it's way too flat on the middle ground. But if you take out 100% of things, that's a place that they might not kick you out of. That's the little conceit there.
You had talked about this thing kind of reminding you of Partridge Family after I had brought it up, but I can't stop thinking now of ba 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 ba. I can hear the harpsichord doing that from the Partridge Family. Uh-huh. This could have been like their outro music of their TV show.
It could have been, maybe, and that's kind of a compliment.
Yeah, it's very cool, I think.
Yeah, I would say that it's speaking about, it's not composition again, that I know that's what you're interested in, but just to clarify how I imagined those parts of the song going, I think of like rock bands doing folk songs, arrangement, like the Byrds doing a Dylan song or something. That kind of sound is how I had pictured it. And on the what I think of as the chorus as well. It is interesting too that those verses and the chorus are the same melody, but and it's got a little thing in the middle, but because of the repetition and the attitude of them, I didn't realize that till I thought about it this morning. I thought, hey, wait, that's the same melody. Verse and chorus has the same melody. That's kind of weird. And I was trying to think of other examples of that, and I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, a couple things here in verse 1. On the first 3 lines, it's just lead vocals and that guitar, stereo guitar panned off right. The whole band is rocking out nice and loud on the line. So that's when the whole band comes in. Hi-hats super nice and loud. And then we get into the pre-chorus. It's the little things that get you down. It's the bigger things that you can't get around. And it's way too flat. On the middle ground or on my middle ground?
On the middle ground.
On the middle ground. That's every lyric I found, but I swear you say my on the recording.
Well, that's just inarticulateness on my part then. The middle ground is a trope, a conventional saying. So
sure. So, and it's way too flat on the middle ground, but everything else is wide open. So let's go. I'm going to include So Let's Go because that happens before the downbeat of the ba ba ba. So I'm including that in the pre-chorus. What's happening here?
Well, what's happening with the So Let's Go is let's go there.
Yeah.
The place that we have ruled completely out of reality. It's a bit of a philosophy. It's a bit of a ironic. I wouldn't say it's self-deprecation so much as just the narrator is coming to terms with a basic reality that the situation you find yourself in is possibly there are no options in the main viewfinder. So you need to, as paradoxical and impossible as it is, you need to find the place that is excluded by all of the no big things, no little things, no middle things, nothing at all. What do you do? That's basically, I mean, it's not super profound, but it is a sort of ironic, almost self-help message that this guy is putting across.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, this song got a lot of radio play. It got MTV play for you guys.
I would say a lot is very generous. It was played twice on MTV.
Yeah, well, a lot for punk bands that weren't on a major label, but at least in the 90s you had a chance.
Yeah, there was a little chance, yeah. And we did our half-assed half-assed best to maximize the possibilities, and that's what we came up with.
Well, this is the lineup though, with Joel on bass and drummer Jim Pittman that I know. I mean, I had seen you with the old lineup in Gainesville in the early 90s, where myself and the band originated from. But I got to know Joel, and man, I've been racking my brain. Did I know Joel before he joined, or who'd he go on afterwards?
It's very, very unlikely. He was a 17-year-old high school student from area near Santa Cruz, California. His debut as a public figure was for better or worse, was with the Mr. T Experience.
Then maybe I had met him after, but we had Les and Jake had played with you one time. We played at the Roxy. It was us, you guys, and MXPX in September of '97.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was when we were trying as our most diligently to do the things that a real band does. We were touring all the time, playing lots of shows. So that was where we got the most reach. It wears you down pretty quickly, but that as you know, ceaseless touring does have an effect.
It's funny when you're out on the road for a month, all you can think about is your own bed and wanting to be home. And then you're in your own bed for a week and you want to be back out there. It's a double-edged sword.
It's a strange way to live.
It certainly is. And the reason that I brought up Joel, you had mentioned, he's someone that could really sing, and he did bring that to the band. Is it him or you doing the harmonies here? I always thought it was you. I figured it was you doing the harmonies with yourself.
No, he was very good at harmonizing with me.
Okay.
That was one of the things that was that we were trying to capture with very few barriers, was, and that was relatively easy. I mean, there are points where it was possibly overdone, but like too high in the mix, and maybe a little. There could have been. We had a live effect that worked. So I know that Kevin Army thought we're just going to try to get this on tape to capture it. And it did work well, but there was not so much production going on.
Right.
It was, I wouldn't say it was live, but I always pictured these just sort of grand angelic choruses. It sounded like, 1,000 voices on everything. And it was always a little bit bothering me in the back of my mind that we never did it. It was not like we could have done a lot of multi-tracking of this stuff and worked on the vocal arrangements, but instead we'd put Joel in the room and say, do what you do. Mm-hmm. And then that would be on tape. And it was always flawlessly executed.
Well, let's also remember how much recording studios cost in the 90s an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't cheap, even if you went with your punk rock friend, as we know. Well, there's some great harmonies here. In pre-chorus 1, we get harmonies on Little Things, Get You Down, Bigger Things, Can't Get Around, Way Too Flat, that minor he hits there is great, Middle Ground, and But Everything Else. Here in pre-chorus 1, the band switches from that halftime groove in the verses, and we get the first vocal harmonies that we just talked about. So Let's Go is technically still part of pre-chorus 1, I'm considering it, as the chorus. Chorus 2 coming up, the ba vocals hit on the downbeat.
Let's go! Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Together. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba.
Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Together. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. And as I say these bas, I don't know if you saw the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech from Alex Lifeson from Rush.
I did not.
He gets up there for 15 minutes and just goes, blah, 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 blah. And you just see Getty and Neil behind him going, oh, when's this going to stop?
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah 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 blah.
They were laughing for the first 3 minutes, of course, but now that I'm saying these words and not singing them, it reminds me of that. The band hits that slow groove here, has the feel of, I'm going to put you in the Lookout Records here, kind of reminds me of When I Come Around, Green Day, or Crimp Shrine, or 15. It's got like that slower kind of, I don't know, it's not a super fast punk groove. It's just kind of moving along. And something else I love here is the together. Because of where you're from, Berkeley, Bay Area, something about the way you go together, it reminds me of like very Haight-Ashbury, hippie-ish, like Grateful Dead. Like, did that slip into the music at all? Like, it's fun. I love it, but it's...
Well, I'm not saying that that's why it says together, but I did have a sort of a hippy-dippy Flower Children playing Dylan songs idea about it. But it's like, I guess what's happening literally there is the narrator's kind of throwing up his hands and saying, what can you do? And sing the catchy chorus, and let's at least let's just come on, join with me and do it together. We have no hope, but we might as well just sing nonsense syllables.
You know, you could have easily told me, Frank, that, I just did it to be funny, because I really couldn't tell if you just said it like it's just a throwaway. And a lot of times we'll do something in front of the mic in the studio that the engineer goes, that was perfect. You're like, what's that together doing in there? You're like, you know what I mean? Like, we just say it like just for fun in between takes or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I never interrogated it till now. It just seems, that's fun. It's also, this is a very old song. It's like all of such songs in my repertoire, and I probably performed it easily thousands of times. It just becomes, eventually it becomes an artifact, and you cross a line where there was a time when I'd have so many criticisms of the lyrics and so forth and the arrangement and everything. But then you reach a point where it just becomes part of history, and then you can't falsify it. So
yeah,
I don't know about that together, but it seems an integral part of the song, whether it was intended that way at the time or not.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Dr. Frank after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/demakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/demakes.
Hey, Chris Makes a Podcast producer Chris Fafalius here. You may have heard me talk about my band Punchline before. Maybe you already know us, or maybe you're hearing about us for the first time right now. It doesn't matter. No matter what your relationship with Punchline is, I will absolutely guarantee that you'll love our new podcast, A Band Called Punchline. Starting with our humble beginnings in a small town in southwestern Pennsylvania in 1997, we're telling the hilarious, strange, and hopefully inspiring story of the 25 plus years of our band in the most honest way possible, podcast style. A Band Called Punchline is an audio documentary available now wherever you get your pods. So subscribe and let me and my friends share a wild, entertaining, unique, and wonderful tale of music and perseverance unlike any other that's still being written today. And now, back to the show.
Well, we get single vocals until the last two. Ba, 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 ba's. We get harmonies on the back half there. And then we're right into verse 2. The band tucks down here for verse 2 for the first couple lines. The drums go to a closed hi-hat. The stereo guitars are playing this syncopated chug. The guitar panned off right being the more playful of the two stereo guitars, having a little more fun over there on the right.
Teacher, please don't be such a tease. Give me some kind of sign, not detention this time. The things that we used to do have been turned into a zoo by people who say all the things that we used to say. And if we say them again, we're gonna sound just like them. After years of remorse, I think I've taken it in.
Teacher, please. Don't be such a tease. Give me some kind of sign, not detention this time. The things that we used to do have been turned into a zoo by people who say all the things that we used to say. And if we say them again, we're going to sound just like them. After years of remorse, I think I've taken it in.
Yeah, that would be correct.
This is the kind of lyrics. This is the first line. Teacher, please, don't be such a tease. And again, the way you sing it to this, when I was a kid and I would listen to this, there was a believability to it. I still feel that. And it's just, I never knew that could coexist with music as a younger person. It was either silly or it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a thing that you learn as you have more and more experience in listening to different kinds of songs and also in life.
Sure.
Nothing's ever quite as straightforward as it's cracked up to be. But I don't know if it gets across. Probably not, because it's left behind so quickly. But that teacher, please, is the narrator is appealing to, I don't know, some sort of philosophical teacher, wise man in the Pythagoras in the cave or something like that. But then it introduces the actual, school teacher, what you call bathos, right? It's from the high to the low, the sublime to the ridiculous. But I think that the philosophical teacher bit was not spelled out enough to make that gag work so well. Now that I look at it,
well, here's the other part. You look at the line, and this wasn't necessarily lost on me, but because when this song came out in '95. I was 21, but I think you got a couple years on me. So I would have had to, if I would have thought about it, realize that, you weren't in school at this point. You weren't getting detention, but it's hilarious. Give me some kind of sign, not detention this time. But again, that could also, you could be talking about your boss or the man or society or whatever. So that's up to the listener to interpret.
Yeah, what the narrator is really getting at there, as far as I am able to determine, is that having established the idea that there is no logically plausible space for he and his compatriots to inhabit, he's asking a wise person to help with an answer, and then, don't get, I want a real answer, not detention me, which is the status quo. That's, I think, what it's supposed to be getting at.
Yeah. Here's your punishment. Pre-chorus too, right off of the heels of verse 2.
It's a little things that gets you down. It's the bigger things that you can't get around. And it's way too flat on the middle ground. But everything else is our oyster. Everything else is a picnic. Everything else is terrific. So let's go.
It's the little things that get you down. It's the bigger things that you can't get around. And it's way too flat on the middle ground. But everything else is our oyster. Everything else is a picnic. Everything else is terrific. So let's go.
It's a rather darkly inspiring message.
What was the thought behind changing the back half here? What was it? Did you put a little more emphasis on what you were saying?
It's a series of ways of expressing, sort of their idiomatic formulations for things being great, but with a large bit of irony. Everything, the world is your oyster.
Okay, because I'm just feeling this, hearing this part just drip with sarcasm. Okay, everything is our oyster, a picnic. It's terrific.
Right.
Shiny, happy people.
Exactly. They're still, these guys are still gonna get kicked out of everywhere they go. But apart from that, it's going to be a tremendous picnic.
We get Joel's awesome harmonies again on Little Things, Get You Down. Bigger Things, Can't Get Around, Way Too Flat, Middle Ground, Everything Else. And then we get one more Everything Else on the line, Everything Else is a Picnic. No harmony on the last line. Everything else is terrific. That is you alone, Frank. On the third line, it's way too flat in the middle ground. There's a great higher pitch harmony on middle ground. It's different from pre-chorus 1. I love where he goes up there.
Yeah, he learned from listening to Beatles records. That's he was very good at that.
I love that change there. It just lifts this back part so well. On the last 3 lines, starting at But Everything Else is Our Oyster, the back half here, there's different lyrics from pre-chorus 1. And on the last line, Everything Else is Terrific. Another beefier, distorted guitar joins right center up the middle as the band goes to halftime here. It really accents and features this line, Frank, and establishes the chorus 3 groove before the chorus starts. It goes back to halftime there. What's up with that guitar coming in? Because you talked about there's not much production in this song. It sounds like just a live band rocking away, but that guitar is really noticeable and it's awesome.
Yeah, well, you want a general principle. You want to build the wall of sound towards the end, and that's always where more overdubs happen. And so that's just the idea that you want the song to end higher, so to speak, than it begins. And that's also the argument for the modulation that follows that. Mm-hmm. It's you want to give just, not just production wise, and execution in the execution, but also following the similar logic of the narrative, where you want it to feel like it's leading somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so that's why, and that was a thing that Kevin and I always agreed on. What are we going to do from the bridge on out to distinguish the last part? And if you listen to his recordings with everyone that he's worked with, you'll notice that that's a consistent attempt.
I'm a sucker for modulation. You could modulate an airport announcement, and it would pique my interest.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard this. There was a thing. I'm the same way, and it makes sense to do that, because by the third minute, your chorus has been established. It's not going to be pulling any surprises, so you lurch it into a different context, and especially with rock and roll and impossible to intonate guitars and everything, you never know what sonic stuff is going to fall out from sliding up a step, and it's always worth a try. But did you ever notice this thing? I remember on the internet some time ago, there was this sort of anti-modulation movement where some guy wrote an essay where he called it something like the trucker's gear shift. And so it was a cheap trick and he had a list of songs that were the worst offenders, and he said it should be illegal or something like that. And I was always kind of irritated that he never condemned my songs, but I was too. We were too far underneath the floorboards for this guy to figure. Anyway, obviously, it never penetrated your world, which is probably good. But I used to laugh at it.
No, I'm going to go look that up. I've never heard that, and that's a very interesting. Of all the things to crap on, that'd be. Yeah. You're gonna zone in on modulation. What?
There's always a guy to complain about every single thing. At least one guy.
Well, that modulation Frank's talking about, it comes up here in chorus 3. Right off the top, there's harmonies on the first 2 ba 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 ba's, and that third guitar is still present here for chorus 3. And that modulation, Frank's talking about it comes up next. It's a key change up one whole step to E major, and a nice and loud 16th note tambourine joins the party. So not only are you getting a key change, but that tambourine with those 16th notes, there's something about a tambourine played at that speed. Even the slowest of songs, it makes it feel like there's a little bit of urgency and something happening.
Yeah, it makes it groovier. It also adds a very, like we're talking about adding interest to the final portion. It's a very high register sound, so it adds a whole level of sound there. And I know at the end, Kevin used to be a big fan of doing that, and he really wanted the person playing the tambourine to throw it up at the end, so that would be on the mic and would be in the sort of in the kind of ambient background of the sound. And I don't know if it was this particular song where you're not going to be able to see it, it's just audio, but he was in the control room, and it was probably Jim who was playing it, and he wasn't paying attention. He was trying to get him to throw the tambourine, and so he just threw his hands up like this, and just throw, and it didn't happen. So then we had to go in and overdub a throwing up of the tambourine.
Oh, wow.
At the end. So I'm not sure if it was this song. It was a comparable situation.
Well, I don't know about if you faked the recording of the tambourine, but it definitely is here.
So let's go. Ba, 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 ba. 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 Together. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba.
When the tambourine comes in, this is when that key change happens, and there's still harmonies on those ba-bas in the key of E. We get another together, and we get another ba-ba-ba-ba-ba with a yeah this time. But the yeah sounds like it's off mic.
I think that's Joel saying yeah. That was a extemporaneous effect that was contrived, because I think we used to do that on stage as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we get the final ba 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 with that big A ending on the E chord. The stereo guitars ring out, and we hear a bit, and this is in my notes, we hear a bit of fidgeting off left from whoever played the tambourine.
Okay.
So, yeah, I need to go back and listen to some of your other songs and see if there's tambourine at the end of those songs. I never really noticed that.
There almost always will be.
Okay. This lyric, ba 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 ba, something else I love about punk. It could be na na na's. It could be, rock and roll songs could be too, but something about the simplicity of this. Do you feel that's one of the reasons this became one of Mr. T Experience's signature songs?
No, absolutely. That is it. And you just have to, I'm not the first person to notice this, but the rock and roll music is beyond rationality. If you were imposing something rational on it, you're importing something alien. Not that can't be brilliant if it's done well, but really there's something that you feel in your gut. And I'll tell you that you can play that song for a small child who doesn't even speak yet, and that child will get it. And I've seen it many, many times. And the only other anecdote about that is that we could tell when we first started playing it that it was working. And we just in our little clubs with, audience of 5 or 6 people, it would even work then. And when we played it for the first time in front of a very large crowd of non-English speakers, when we played in Italy with Green Day, the record hadn't come out yet. There's no way no one ever knew who we were. No one could have ever heard that song. But I just remember very clearly the first time I played the chord and sang the first chorus, by the third time, this 10,000 person audience was singing it without, then that's the universal language, but it helps when it's not even syllable. I mean, it's syllables, but it's not, it's from any language, you still can get it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of brilliant. I wish I had thought of, or the gods had nudged me towards doing more things like that, because there's something kind of magical about it.
And don't we all wish we could have written 20 songs like that when you realize, hey, we might be an international touring band here, and we might go somewhere where people don't speak English. Imagine that. And now we got this song that it doesn't matter.
No, that's exactly right. And it doesn't matter. I don't know. It's not just the ba-ba-bas that do it. It's the changing from there's the halftime parts, which are kind of groovy, and then the faster parts, which are, kind of exciting. I mean, again, not rational or intellectual, but there's a drama there between the highs and the lows that does actually work on a crowd. But so I say, and as you say, oh, I should have just done a lot more of those. But it's just catching the right thing to do the thing, even if you understand what it is not as easy as you think. And it's not like people haven't tried to recreate the inadvertent magic and failed. Sometimes you can do it, but it's not as simple as just, oh, I know why that. Okay, I'm going to do this again.
Yeah.
Because maybe you do it again, it falls flat, and there's all of these imponderables that are introduced into the process at each stage when you go towards actually executing it from the idea. And you got to just trust and hope for the best. And sometimes something lands. You do your best to shore it up as much as you can, but ultimately it's not completely within your control.
Yeah, that you said it. It's like we're a vessel of happenstance. Something comes through us that just happens in that moment. Try to recreate it, and you can't. I mean, I've tried. I've tried.
Yeah.
Hey, this song worked. Let's write one like it. It just for whatever reason usually doesn't have the magic. Before we break here, a couple things. Thank you so much. I meant what
thank you.
I meant what I said at the top. Sometimes I wonder, God, do people that I have on here think that I'm, kissing up to them? But absolutely love Mr. T Experience, and always admired what you've done. I've loosely followed your career. I know you got into writing. Talk a little bit about that and what's coming up, if anything, for Mr. T Experience.
Yeah, well, the writing was basically an aspect of the same project as the songwriting. It's the rock and roll. It's teenage music at bottom, and the adolescent point of view. That is the narrators of a preponderance of my songs to some degree is presenting that point of view. So it seemed like it would make sense to have that sort of narrator, or at least be interesting to see what would happen if that sort of narrator were to narrate a novel. And one of these days, the further books that I'm working on here and there will probably get an airing. The band, we resurrected to make the album that the soundtrack, so to speak, of the King Dork books. And then we did, a fair amount of shows, and we were going pretty strong, relatively speaking. And then the COVID thing happened and everybody stopped doing things. And then we sort of, closed up shop because of that. Never say never. I still intend to do more stuff, but the future is unwritten at this point of how that would work and how it would come together. But you can't, old bands never really break up. And, as long as there's one guy who was once in the band, there's still a possibility that you'll see him on tour. So, I'm not sure when, but I'm sure you haven't heard the last of me because, like they say, too dumb to quit. That's me. So, all
right. Well, if you decide to play shows and you get any dumber, give me a call. We'll do some shows together.
That sounds like a good plan.
I'm so glad that we finally got Dr. Frank on the show, and I can't wait to talk to Chris about this episode in the rap segment that's coming right up after a few words from our sponsors, so don't go anywhere.
What makes a song a smash on the charts? Is it talent? Luck? Timing? Well, as chart analyst and pop critic Chris Molanphy would say, it's all that and more. Chris hosts Hit Parade, a podcast from Slate, where he tells tales from more than a half century of pop chart history. Through storytelling, trivia, and song snippets, he dissects how the artists you love or hate dominated the airwaves and shaped your memories forever. He's explained why Steely Dan is yacht rock and Jimmy Buffett isn't, why girl groups dominated the early 60s and boy bands the late 90s, how the members of disco band Chic wrote a bass line that launched hip-hop, how Taylor Swift pivoted from country to pop, how Sam Cooke invented soul and James Brown invented funk, and what exactly a one-hit wonder is, and whether the band Aha is a one-hit wonder. I think you'd really like it. So for Tales of the Hits from Coast to Coast, make sure to follow Hit Parade wherever you get your podcasts. Hey there, Krista Makes a Podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at KristaMakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalius and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at KristaMakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Krista Makes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumighttnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Vinny Slughead, the occupant of the lowest spot on Cape Girardeau, Missouri's punk rock totem pole. Vinny has also been reluctantly granted the Pigeon Award, the Arm & Hammer Award, and the NBA Peanut Brittle Medallion of Excellence by the City Council. Here's a snippet of his song, I Drive a Lawnmower.
What's up, dude? Not much, how are you? Sometimes when I'm back and see that glassy bastard grin, I just get up and laugh. A bad state of pure content. The next thing I know, I am right back there again, waiting still for the silence of strings.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, as a guy who has been a Mr. T Experience fan since I was a teenager, I was flabbergasted at the fact that Dr. Frank is a Pittsburgher now. He lives right down the road from me. I didn't even know.
Yeah, he said he can't quite wrap his head around ever saying yins. But and for those who don't know what yins means, how do you describe yins? Like you all?
It's
you guys?
It's y'all. It's y'all of Pittsburgh. And
yins.
he doesn't say yins yet, but he does enjoy a Primanti sandwich, or as you like to call it on stage every time you play Pittsburgh, Chris, a Primanti sandwich. As if you're some very proper guy. But yeah, dude, this episode was awesome. And here we go again with an artist. How many times is this going to happen in such a short span? With an artist talking about singing something, in this case, sometimes it's playing something, sometimes it's singing something that made everyone laugh. And that's how you knew it was good.
Yeah, when he said that, it was like, wow. Just like, kind of like this has been happening lately, hearing someone say that. And he said a couple things during this episode that just, wow, really surprised me and absolutely love what he talked about with getting up there. And it's like lightning in a bottle. You can't recreate this, but he said he was at that show in Italy and he hits that chord and starts going ba ba. And by the time the second chorus came around, about 10,000 people, and he's like, you couldn't pay money for that.
Buzz, nas, las, woes, those kind of things. He said, I like the way he put it. He said, you could play this for a small child and they get it. It's something internal. And the way that it translates to people that don't even speak English or speak the same language as you, and yet you can all sing it together. That's beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I had to stop short. I felt like I gushed to John Kastner from Doughboys, my favorite band. But I mean, I I hold these guys up there. Like I said, the formidable years of Less Than Jake, these guys were top 10. Their lyrics, they spoke to me because as I said to Frank, they were believable at the highest silly level.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't make sense. It's like, how can this guy be singing this lyric, but I'm believing it, I'm feeling it. And they were definitely an influence.
Go listen to this album, Love Is Dead, or the album before this, Our Bodies, Ourselves. I was a big fan of that album. There's something really heartfelt, lyrically, yet the melodies are great. This band's awesome. And what a catalog. Very prolific songwriter, Dr. Frank. And I remember as being, I grew up, as a lot of people my age, a Lookout Records /Fat Records / Epitaph fan. And I remember seeing this music video. He said it was only played twice. I probably literally have them both taped on a VHS tape because I taped 120 minutes every week. But I was so excited when I saw that Mr. T Experience video. I didn't see it coming. And it was the same kind of excitement I got the first time I saw a Less Than Jake video on 120 minutes. Like when I first saw a Get Up Kids video on 120 minutes. It was like, oh my God, this band that's like mine, they're on this higher level now. They're on this platform. And I remember getting excited about that.
The only way to try to convey what you just said to a younger generation, Chris, is imagine, and you're telling this to a younger person, imagine the internet only has 12 spots for the next month. 12 spots, 12 different 3-minute videos and songs that gets featured. That's what you get. And that's the importance of what something like 120 minutes was then. And Frank kind of downplayed it. I saw the video in 120 minutes. They had to play it more than twice.
When you look back at it, there's only like 50 episodes of 120 minutes a year. So maybe it was only a couple, but that's a big deal. Even getting on there once was a big deal.
Yep.
There were a couple other things in this episode I want to talk to you about real quick, Chris. One of them, those moments in the song where he says either like together or let's go and things like that. Things that you might say live, but you wouldn't normally do on a recording, but it makes the recording feel alive. I recently, Chris, when we were doing these Punchline podcasts we do where we recap all our old songs and albums and stuff, we laughed about in this old Punchline song called Express, there was a moment where it's me actually, he goes, here we go. Like something you would do live on a stage, but we did it on the recording. We didn't think twice about it. We just did it. Yeah. And now I'm like, oh my God, I would never do that on a recording now, but maybe I should rethink that because it makes it feel alive.
Yeah, well, I even asked him, I said, with this off the cuff, a lot of times as vocalists, we'll just be doing warm-ups or just ad-libbing. A lot of times it's ad-libbing or trying to be funny. Sometimes you want to break the mood in the studio. You've been recording for 15 hours that day. You're like, together, and everyone laughs, and it's funny. I've done that before, where now I'll get in the studio and you'll hear a comp vocal and be like, why is that together in there? Everyone's like, what are you talking about? It's part of the song now, but I absolutely love it. And again, it kind of, I had to harken back to where they're from, the Berkeley area of like that hippie of like, and he said, yeah, that kind of plays into it a little bit, which I thought was really, really cool.
You just made me think of something. When I was a young punk and listening to this music from the Bay Area, I wasn't thinking, I'm talking, early to mid 90s or whatever, that all that Haight-Ashbury stuff, that hippie stuff, that would have been the equivalent of right now being from like 1998 or 2000 or something. Like it wasn't that far in the rear view mirror at that point. So there was a little bit of a crossover.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not so much in the sound of the music, but some of the feeling and some of the whatever of the music scene kind of bled through, even if the instinct would have been to be like, fuck hippies or whatever. But like some of that spirit was still there. And I wasn't cognizant of that being an East Coast kid.
Well, I mean, the generation right before Frank, his parents and maybe some of his cousins, aunts and uncles, he grew up in that. I guarantee he was driving around in the car and listening to AM radio and into those songs. So it was definitely an influence for him.
Yeah, dude. And hey, the one more thing I wanted to talk about, you guys talked about modulation, the key change. Dude, you said you weren't aware of this. I was definitely at a certain point when there was a few albums, I don't know if it was like in the mid 2000s or something, but the producers we were working with, and I just think it got like seeped into my brain that doing a key change was passé. Like that was a faux pas. You weren't supposed to do a key change. I don't know. Maybe it stemmed from whatever this article of someone making fun of it, or maybe it was just like this thing that was real like a stereotype of rock and roll music or something. But people were making fun of that for a while. But I'm a sucker for it. We do it again. We've had songs where we've done that lately.
I'm the opposite. Like if your song doesn't have a key change, I'm going to talk smack about you.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I try to fit one in every song somewhere. I fail, but I think it's the coolest trick. Listen, if Neil Diamond and Barry Manilow did it and it was good enough for them, sign me up.
Sure, man. Sure.
And I'll tell you what else we can sign up for, Chris, and I have a new jingle for it. Supporting cast.
Okay, sure.
Ba, 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 ba. Head over to KristaMakes.com where our supporting cast lives. You can sign up there for bonus episodes of the after party every week. You can hear Chris and I talk at you more. What else am I missing, Chris?
That's about it, man. I mean, what you're missing is probably if you sign up for our supporting cast at KristaMakes.com, you allow us to continue making this show. Hey, you might not realize it, but we put a lot of hours into making these episodes come true, and to be able to afford that time where I could be doing something else that helps pay the bills. It takes time, and sometimes it takes money to allow us to keep doing that. So for a few bucks a month, you'll get a bonus episode every week. And of course, you support Krista Makes a Podcast, which we really appreciate. And also, if you love the show, something that doesn't even cost a couple bucks a month is going to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving us a 5-star review. On Apple Podcasts, you can write a review. Sometimes we read the reviews here at the end. I didn't have one ready to go today, but I promise I'll have one ready to go for the next episode. But that means a lot. It takes like literally 30 seconds. And if you want us to continue getting great guests, those reviews help because it helps grow the show. So, hey, it's as easy as that.
Absolutely. And again, thanks for all the support. You help keep the lights on here at Krista Makes a Podcast. Give Chris Fafalius a follow on Instagram and give me a follow as well at Less Than Chris D. We also have an Instagram page for Krista Makes a Podcast where Chris uploads some very cool videos of the guests and myself talking about some cool parts of our conversation. And I want to thank this week's guest, Dr. Frank Portman, for sitting in with us, and we'll see you next week. Hey friends, have you been loving Krista Makes a Podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
American Giant makes great clothing. T-shirts, jeans, and more right here in the U.S., creating jobs in towns and cities across the country. Support America's workers and get 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20.
Hey, what's up? This is Blake Weiland. I'm the host of the Tone Mob Podcast. It's a show where I interview guitar people about guitar stuff. We talk about their pedals, their amps, their accessories, their preferences, all that stuff, as well as a healthy dose of whatever comes up. Topics have ranged from aliens to addiction and anywhere in between. Oh yeah, and pizza. We're definitely going to be talking about pizza. So get the show wherever you're listening to this podcast at. Just search The Tone Mob in your search bar and it will pop right up. Come join us. We're having a lot of fun. Thanks for checking it out.